Okay, Be'ez Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Baba Sanhedrin, Daf Hey, and we're going to start from Daf Sanhedrin on the bottom of Dalet Amid Beis, Tanu Rabbanan. The rabbis taught. It's the last line of Dalet Amid Beis. Dini Monmunes Bishloisha. Okay, here we go. Dini Monmunes Bishloisha. In other words, technically, you should have three people as your court, as the court, as the judges. V'im hoya, we're going to daf Hey Amid Aleph. V'im hoya mumcha l'rabim. If you have one expert. Now, what's somebody who's a known expert? A known expert is one person who has the experience and he has common sense, probably, and he also knows the halacha. So, don afilu yuchidi. Then he could be the sole judge in a monetary case. Amar Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman said, if you want to know an example of a person who fits that quality of mumcha l'rabim, so he humbly says, "Kegoin ano, I'm the guy. Don din in monos bichidi. I can judge monetary cases alone. I could be the sole judge." V'chein Amar Rav Chia. Rav Chia said the same thing. Kegoin anom don din in monos bichidi. I can judge monetary cases by myself. Okay, so now that's great. Now, there's another issue that in order to, okay, hold on. Hi. Okay. Hi, everyone. Okay, so we're on Daf Hey Amid Aleph. We just started, and basically, we discussed that if somebody is an expert, he has common sense, he knows how to learn, he has the experience, then he could be a sole judge. Generally, we'd like to have three judges, but if somebody is that type of person called a mumcha l'rabim, that's at the top of the page of Hayamad Aleph, then he could be the judge. And Rab Nachman and Rab Chia both said that we're examples of people who can be the sole judge in a monetary case. Now, there was also another thing that you need to be a judge. It's not just to know and take an online course and have the experience. You have to have the license. The one that used to give the license was the mayor. Let's call him the mayor or the governor of the Jewish people. The Persians allowed the Jewish people to govern themselves in Bavel, and the head mayor, the head governor, was called Reish Galusa. So, so the question is, let's say if a person, without taking permission, without getting the license or the permission, the permit from the Reish Galusa, is his judgment, even if he knows how to learn and he knows he's an expert, is his judgment a good judgment, or is it disqualified? That's what the question is. 4 lines from the top of Hayamad Aleph. Ibaylahu, kegoin ano, the gamira usavirna. We know how to learn, and we know how to give sevaris, unikita reshusa, and we take permission. In other words, we have the license, the permit from the Reish Galusa. Then, therefore, our judgment is non-questionable. And in fact, what's more important here is that even if we make a mistake, we don't have to pay, because once you have that permit issued from the Reish Galusa, so then if you make a mistake, you don't even have to pay. If the judge makes a mistake, he doesn't have to pay out of pocket. Aval loy nikita reshusa, but if you say that if you don't have the permit, dina loy dina, then the judgment is not a good judgment. It's disqualified. It's discounted. It's nullified. It's void. Oidilmo, or perhaps afagav de loy noket reshusa dina dina. Even if the guy does not have the permit, is his judgment a good judgment? In other words, is it binding? So the question is, even if you don't, if somehow, like if you practice medicine without the license, so you may have, so basically you're practicing law without the license. The question is the judgment binding or not? Tashma, come in here. The Mazutra bered Rab Nachman don dina v'tar. Mazutra, who did not have permission, okay, he did not have the permit. He judged the case and made a mistake. Also the Kamad Rav Yosef, so he came to 4 Rav Yosef. So what should he do? Amalei, so he said like this. The question is, Im, he told them like this: Im kiblich alayhu. If they both accepted you as the judgment, as the judge, it means both litigants said you're the judge. We don't mind if you make a mistake. Loy teshalem, then you don't have to pay. The Eloi, but if they both didn't accept you, they just told you, we know you don't have a permit. We want you to just tell us what the Torah will say. And you made a psak, and then you made a mistake. Then Rabbi Yosef said, Zil Shalem, you must pay. So Shmami Noah, so Rabbi Yosef did not tell Mar Zutra that the whole case is disqualified. So it's from here you see Shmami no ki loy noket reshusa dina dina. Even if Ramar Zutru did not have the permit, the judgment is still a good judgment. Shmami no, that's a good proof that you don't have to have the permit. Even if you don't have the permit, the case is still a good case, albeit the judge himself, if he makes a mistake, will have to pay. So now, how does one make sure that you're a judge? You don't have to pay. Amarav, hi man the boy and of dina. If you want to be a judge, the ita, and you make a mistake, mi boy lemiftere, you want to not have to pay out of pocket. So then, lishkal reshusa mibe reish galusa. You should take the permit test, I guess, from the reish galusa. And in that case, if you know how to learn and you have experience and you're a judge, but you have the permit from the reish galusa, then if you make a mistake, you will not have to pay. Shmuel, so said Shmuel, lishka reshusa mibe reish galusa. If you take the permit from the reish galusa, you don't have to pay. So now the Gemara says a important point. Now, there were two permit tests. One from the Reish Galusa, and they were the leaders of the Jewish people in Bavel. And they actually had they weren't just plain people. They were from Shevet Yehuda, the king Shevet of the Jewish people. But then there was another permit test that you could have taken in Israel from a family, from Hillel family. They were law writers, but they wouldn't have that stature as the Reish Galusa in Bavel. So the Gemara says like this: Pshita. It's very simple. Mahacha lahacha. If you have a permit in Bavel, lahacha, then you could be a judge in Bavel. Mehasam lahasam. From there to there. In other words, if you have the permit from the Nasi is the president in Israel, lahasam, then you can be a judge in Israel. Right? Just like if you have a driver's license in New York and the United States, it's good here. And if you have a driver's license in Europe, you can drive there. Mahani. The Gemara says that if you have the permit in Bavel, then you certainly could be a judge in Israel. That also helps. The Hacha, why is the Bavel permit more important? The Hacha Shevet, because here we are from the Shevet. This is from the tribe of Yehuda, and the Reish Galusa had a big higher stature than the Nasi, the president in Israel. And over there, they are the lawgivers. Hidetanya, like we learned in the Brisa. Loyasa Shevet mi Yehuda, Ela Rashi Galoya Shebavel. The head of the Exile in Bavel, they took the lead, and they were like kings in Bavel. They were given permission from the Persian government. Sheroidim es Yisrael b'shevet. They rule the Jewish people with a stick. So therefore, they have a certain power over in Bavel. U'mechoykek b'bein raglav, elu b'nei Bavel Hillel, shemlamdim Torah u'barabim. The teachers from Hillel, they didn't have that stature as the people in Bavel. They taught Torah in public. In other words, they were big Talmidei Chachamim in Israel, but they didn't have that same power, king stature, as the one that had in Bavel. So now the question then becomes: Mahasam lahachamai. If you're got the permit in Israel, can you practice? Can you practice in Bavel? Right? Can you practice in Bavel? So Tashma come in here. The Rabba Baba Chana don dina v'tah. Now, Rabba Baba Chana, Rabba Baba Chana got the permit, by the way, in Israel. We're going to learn that in a moment. Rabbi Babachona got the permit in Israel. Don Dina V'tah, and he made a psak, and he made a mistake. So he paskin wrong in Bavel, also the comment of Rabbi Chia. So he came to Rabbi Chia. He went back to Israel, and he wanted to know, was he a qualified dayan in Bavel? Amalei. So Rabbi Chia told him, if they accepted you, the litigants in Bavel accepted you, loy shalem, you don't have to pay, because they accepted you as the judge. And whatever you passed in is correct. The Eloi, but if they didn't accept you as a judge, they just told you, tell us what the law is. So then, if you make a mistake, zil shalem, you have to pay out of pocket. So, so, Rabba. So we see from there that he has to pay, but he had the license. Rabba Babachona had a license from Israel, and he was practicing in Bavel, and nevertheless, the license didn't exempt him if he made a mistake. So we see Shmamina, the proof is simple. Mahasam lahach, if you have a license, Mahasam, in Israel, and you're practicing in Bavel, loy mahani, it doesn't work. Shmamina, that's the proof. So if you got the license in Israel and you started practicing in Bavel, it's not a qualified license, and therefore if you make a mistake, you're going to have to pay. Says the Gemara, v'loy mahani, it doesn't work. It doesn't work if you have the license from Israel and you want to practice in Bavel? Rabba Barafuna, ki have a mince bahadi de Beirush Galusa, when he had a disagreement with the Reish Galusa, okay, and the Reish Galusa was the king of Bavel. Rabba Barafuna got his license in Israel. So he would say to them, like, point his finger at them. He says, Lav minaycho nikite rishusa. I didn't get my license to practice law from you, to be a judge. Nikite rishusa, I got my license, ma'aba mori, for my dad. Ba'aba mori, mirav. Ma'aba mori got it from Rav. Rav, Rav Chia. Rav Chia, Rebbe. So we see he taunted the Reish Galusa, saying, my license is a valid license because I got it in Israel. And Israel, we date back from Rav to Rav Chia to Rebbe, and Rebbe is from Israel. So my license is a bigger license than the license that you're giving. So we see that the license in Israel is just as strong as the license you get in Bavel. And says the Gemara, you're right, but it's not true. B'milsa da'almahu da'aykim lahu. He was just talking, pushing them off. He was just saying words. The truth is that his license was not as valid, as strong as the license in Bavel. And really, it was invalid in Bavel. But he went ahead and got the license in Israel. So then why did he go through getting the paperwork to get the license? If the question Gemara is now asking, if Rabbi Bar Huna practiced in Bavel, so why did he bother to get the license in Israel? He should have gotten a license in Bavel, because his license in Israel is not valid. That's the Gemara's question. Why did he get his license? Why did he get his license in Israel if it wasn't valid? And since the Gemara, it was valid for the cities that are right near the border of Israel, which have a somehow connection to Israel. So there, it's not Bavel per se. So there, his license was good. But when he got further down to Iraq, then his license is not good. So it was useful for those cities. Probably he stayed in those cities that were right near Israel. So the Gemara says like this. So the Gemara says like this: My Rishusa. What was his license all about? What could he practice? So the Gemara says, Ki avinochas Rabba Babachana leBavel. When Rabbi Babachana was going to Bavel, he got a license in Israel. Amalei Rab Chia leRebbe. So Rab Chia said to Rebbe, Ben Achi, my nephew, Yared leBavel. Rebbe was the king in Bavel, in Israel. And Rab Chia told Rebbe, my nephew is going to Bavel. So Yoira, can he paskin law? Yoira. He can be paskin laws in kashrus. Yodin, can he be a judge? Yodin. He can be a judge, Rebbe said. Yatir b'chayris, can he make b'chayris mutter? In other words, in order for a b'chor, normally a b'chor has to be given, an animal that's a b'chor has to be given to the kohen, but it takes an expert person who knows blemishes to say that if the b'chor has a blemish, it does not have to be given to the kohen. So you have to be somewhat an expert in the physiology of animals. So the question was, Rav Chia asked Rebbe regarding Rabba Babachana, his nephew, can he be mater b'chayris? So Yater, he can be mater b'chayris. He was a perfect rabbi. Ki havanochas Rav leBavel, but when Rav wanted to go to Bavel, Amalei Rab Chia l'Rebbe, so Rab Chia said to Rebbe, Ben Achoisi, my nephew, but my son of my sister, Yore leBavel, is going to Bavel. Yore, can he paskin halachas in Yeridea? Yore. Yodin in kashrus. Yodin, can he be a paskin halachas in choshen mishpat? Yodin. Yater b'chayris, can Rav mater b'chayris? Al yater. He's no good. He's disqualified from that. So basically, Rab Chia had two nephews. One was his brother's son. One was his sister's son. For Rabba Babachana, he passed the test for everything. Yeridei, Yodin, and Bimata B'chayris. Rav didn't pass all the tests. He got the Yora, he got the Yodin, but he didn't get the license to be Mata B'chayris. So first the Gemara clarifies, how could he call them My Shmuel Amar Koribe ben Achi, or My Shmuel Amar the Koribe ben Achoisi? Why did he call one of them his nephew from his brother, and one of them he called his nephew from his sister? Do you want to say Hachi Havamaisa that that's the story? One was the nephew of his brother's son, and one was his nephew from his sister. So, but that's not true. They were all related, right? So I want to show you the picture so you get what's going on over here. I mean, if you can see on the screen over here, you have Rav Acha Mekafri. He had one wife, Isha Aleph, and he had Chana, Sheila, Marsa, Avoy, all these things on the right side of the screen. And then Chana had his son Rabba. So then he had another wife, he took another wife, and he had a son, Chia. And from this other wife, she was married before to another husband and had a daughter with that other husband. So now you have a brother who does not share a father or a mother can marry his sister. So that's how Rav was born. Avoy married his stepsister, so to speak. They didn't share father or mother, and therefore, from that union was born Rav. So therefore, the Gemara is going to say that although Rav Chia, which is the one in the middle, can say that Rav was his brother's son, and Rabbah was his brother's son, but he preferred to call Rav was his sister's son because they shared a mother, and Rabbah was his brother's son. That's how you explain it. That's how it works. So let's go back to the Gemara. So therefore, so the Gemara says, Rav Baruch Hu Dahava Bar Achte. Rav was his brother's son, but it was more his sister's son. And the last line, Rabba Babachana Bar Achui Dala Bar Achte. Rabba Babachana was the son of his brother, but not the son of his sister. Okay, but Rav actually was the son of his sister and also the son of his brother. So that's why Rav was called the son of his sister, and Rabba Babachana was called the son of his brother. The Ibai same. If you want, I can tell you. We go to the top of Hay on the base. The reason why he called Rav was a genius, and therefore somehow, when you want to call a genius, you call him your sister's son. Hashem chachmasai deksiv emel chachma chaysiyat. You tell to Chachma, you're my sister. Just like a brother is very close to their sister, the person is very, very smart. He's called like he knows knowledge like his sister. So now the question is, so that's why he called Rav as my Baruch, the son of my sister, he was trying to compliment the Rav is a big genius. So the Gemara says, if Rav is such a big genius, Yater B'chayris al Yater, he didn't pass the law of being Mater B'chayris, he couldn't check animals for mumin, for blemishes. Why not? My timer. You're going to say Mishum Dloi Chakim, Rav was not so smart. Hakamrinin, you just said the Chakim Tuva. He was very, very smart. Elo, you want to say Mishum Dloi Bikia B'mumin? He doesn't have the experience. You see, sometimes you can pass the test and you know the knowledge, but you don't have the experience. And that's why Rav did not have permission to be Mater B'chayros. But that's not true. Rav said, Shmoina Asa Chadashim, 18 months, I had a residency. Gedalti Eitzeroya Behema. I lived and worked next to a shepherd. Later to know for a fact, Ezemum Kubuav, Ezemum Oiva. What's a permanent blemish that would matter a Bechor, and what's not a permanent blemish. So Rav definitely had the experience and the knowledge to become someone who could be Mater B'chayris. So why didn't Rebbe want to give him let him have the permit to be Mater B'chayris? And it says the Gemara, he wanted to make Rabba Babachana one up on Rav. They both were going to Bavel, right? So Rabba Babachana, because he passed, he got a three-pronged permit, so that everybody's going to give him respect. Rav, he was so smart, everybody was going to give him respect anyway, even if they only had 2 out of 3. But if Rav would have 3 out of 3, then people would give more respect to Rav and totally ignore Rabba Babachana. So in order to give respect to Rabba Babachana, Rebbe did not allow Rav to pass the test of get the permit to be Mater B'chayris. The Ibaya Seima, Mishum Ha Gufa, the Rav Bekia B'mitfei, V'shari Mumed Lo Yode Enashe. Rav was so smart, he would, the reason why he didn't get the license is because he would matter a few moments that people are not going to be aware of their blemishes, v'amre, and people are going to say, "Oh, ki hai gav nashar Rav." Once they think that, "Oh, Rav permitted this," and they're going to come to permit a passing type of blemish. In other words, Rav is so smart, people will not understand the reason why he's going to paskin this way regarding a certain blemish, and people are going to extend what he said to other cases which are not permanent blemishes, to non-permanent blemishes. That's why they couldn't give Rav the psak. So let's another 2 more minutes here. The Gemara says like this: why do you b'chlal need a permit? I mean, if you know the halacha, if you pass the test, the question is, why do you need a permit? Yaira. So the Gemara says, Gamar. So if you're so smart, Rishus Salami Lila Mishkal, why do you need to have a permit? So the Gemara says like this, a very interesting thing. You could pass the test, and you could be like in surgery. You could know all the everything, but you may not have the hands for it or something like that. So even if you have the knowledge, doesn't mean you're ready to be the professional. And same thing over here. Sometimes a rabbi doesn't have the power of speech. And he can have the knowledge, but he can't speak very well, and therefore people are going to make mistakes. And that's why you need a permit to not only test your knowledge, but to see how you express yourself. So Mishmaisa Shahaya, the Tanya we learned in the Brisa. Pam Achas Holach Rebbe L'Mokamecha. Rebbe went to a certain one place. V'Rabbanei Adam, and he saw people Shemegablim Isasayim Betumah. They were kneading their doughs in water that's tamei. Why are you kneading your doughs in tamei? They didn't know. They thought they had tahar. Amalei. So they told him, Talmud Echabov. There was a rabbi that came here, and he paskin made bitzoyim einam achshim. If you take swamp water, they don't metama. They don't make the dough susceptible to tama. So we can knead our dough with swamp water. But the rabbi had a problem speaking. He meant to say may beitzim darshlu. In his speech, he said not betzoim, which is swamp water, egg water, using the liquid from eggs. So eggs is not water, so that doesn't make susceptible to tumor, only water. The Inu suffered, but they misunderstood, and they said maybe it's same karma. He said swamp water, and that's one mistake they made. This rabbi couldn't speak. The Torah Nami Bahad, they made another mistake. He said make kribim or make piga, these type of swamp waters or waters, a psulim, a puzzle, are disqualified to use for the mechatas, for the water, for the sprinkling waters. Because they are a swamp. But so therefore they're puzzle to be used as for the water that you mix the ashes of the paradumahu. The inu sovereign, these people held middle gabe chatas, since they're invalid to be used for the ashes of the mechatas, akshurinami lamakshai, they won't make anything tuma. But that's not true. They're disqualified for ash for the paraduma waters because they're not natural spring waters. But over here, but just because it just has to be a little bit water. It has to be any water could be make susceptible to tumah. Tana, we learned in the Brisa. At that moment, when they saw this rabbi was had the knowledge, but he didn't know how to speak, and people are confused. Talmud al Yaira al rabbi. From that moment on, they made that you have to pass a verbal test. So you got to have the permit from your rabbi to become a paskin. Two more stories. Tanchum berei the Rebbe. Ami Ikla Chaser. Tanchum, the son of Rabbi Ami, was in the place called Chaser. Darish Lahu, he made a speech. You're allowed to soak wheat on Pesach, even though to make it it doesn't become chametz. Amr loy lav Rab Mani de Mitzar ika. How could you paskin? Isn't Rebbe money from Tsar from Tsar ika hacha, and therefore he's your teacher. The Talmud. Batanya Talmud al Yera Lachim Kaim Rabbi Elam Kaim Rochim Imenu Sholish Pasois B'Kneged Machne Yisrael. A student should not paskin if his Rebbe is there unless he's in a distance from his Rebbe 3 miles. Then you could paskin. So they asked Tanchem, how could you paskin when Reb Moni, who is your teacher, he's here also? You can't paskin. Amalheim lav adaite. I was not aware of that. One more story. Says a Gemara B'chia Chazilahu. Gavra B'chia saw this person to have a koi b'beisakaris. He was in a beisakaris. And here, although we just said that you can't paskin with your Rebbe is there, but to stop somebody from doing an isser, then you're allowed to, even if your Rebbe is present, you're allowed to paskin. So Rabbi was walking in a cemetery, Amalahu, and he met a person. Amalu la ben ish pleni kohenato. Aren't you a kohen? You have to get out of the cemetery. So the guy said to him, "And I'm a kohen, but Avudihu Gavra, my dad, Gvai Naim Hava. He was a person who ran after his eyes." And Nasab Eina Begrusha, he married actually a divorcee, and I'm the child, the Chilulite. So now I'm not a kohen with kedusha. I'm a chol. So therefore, I don't have to get out of the cemetery because I'm not a real kohen. So the one more thing, pshita lapalga called common mahani. You could get the license, 2 out of 3 license, yodin, but not to be mata b'choyers. Half a license you could get. Al tanai, can you get a license for a certain period of time? Does the license have to last forever? Tashma, Damalei Rabbi Yochanan Rab Shaman. Rabbi Yochanan said to Rab Shaman, your license works as long as you go to Bavel, but when you come back to Israel, your license expires. So we see that the license that you get doesn't have to last forever. It could be also for a certain time period. Okay, so we stop over here.